Right, so we will go through The House of Bernada Alba by Federico Garcia Lorca. First, a brief introduction, and we will just briefly look into the main characters. We have already discussed this, but I will do a brief outline because you wanted a plot summary of the entire drama as well. So we will go through that as well, and then we will move to the rest of the drama from where we have stopped. So, here to provide a very brief introduction, this is a Spanish play written by Garcia Lorca in 1930s, to be specific, 1936. And also, you can consider this as a tragedy, and also several themes are explored here, such as repression and also tradition. Specifically, there is a questioning of tradition. By tradition, here I refer to the strict, rigid control of the church and also female oppression in a conservative society. And what is very ironic is that this female oppression or female domination is done by a female itself, right? Not by a male hand, by a female hand, but again, she represents patriarchy. And yeah, so this is Locke's final work before his assassination. We have already discussed about that. And here, main characters. So all these characters are females except for Pepe El Romano. And also it is really important that he is not present in the drama physically. Only his name is mentioned. So it is more or less a symbolical representation. So Bernard Alba is the female protagonist, the domineering matriarch. So there's this strict control over the five daughters, and there are these five daughters. Angustia, the eldest one, she's the wealthiest, and she's not from her second marriage. And Magdalena, Amelia, Martirio, and Adela. All these are the other daughters, the four daughters from the second marriage. And Magdalena is fighting for her freedom, but Amelia is the totally opposite. She's very meek and she's accepting her fate as it is, not rebellious. And the fourth daughter is very bitter and envious. Again, the readers are expected to look at her with a sympathetic perspective because her fate has kind of, doomed her to be like that. And then Adela is the most rebellious. She desires freedom and love, and there is this tragic fate that she meets at the end. And Poncia is the family's maid, and also, on one hand, she is an observer of Bernarda's malignant behavior, and on the other hand she's a critic, and also you can say to an extent she exercises such behavior on the others that she witnesses from Bernarda. So she is like a second Bernarda, or in other words you can say that she's a parallel to her character. And then Pepe El Romano is the one who is engaged to Angustia, but he is secretly in love with Adela. So you can see how intricate is the plot. There are all these betrayals and all. And then Maria Josefa is Bernarda's elderly mother. So you can see in her old age, she has all these repressed desires. So those are what translate, I would say, into her bitter behavior as well. And specifically, as you wanted a plot summary, so here this takes place after the demise of Bernarda's second husband. So Bernarda imposes an 8-year mourning period, not only on her five daughters, but in the entire household. And the daughters struggle under oppressive rule, specifically Adela. So some daughters are all okay with it, specifically the third daughter, but Adela, the youngest, is struggling. She's rebellious and she secretly falls in love with Pepe Romano, and also there are all these tensions. There are, moments of jealousy, secrets, and all these are very intricate. And Martirio, she's this bitter character, another daughter, she's envious of Adela, exposes her pair with Pepe, and then it leads to a confrontation. And Bernardo attempts to maintain control, but Adela, who believes that Pepe is dead, commits suicide. And the play ends with Bernardo demanding silence, reinforcing her obsession. Again, you can see that this control is not something physical, it is coming with wide socio-cultural baggage as well. And then you can see that there are several symbolic movements. So here you can see the house is a representation of societal constraints and also the suffocating oppression which is felt by females. And also here, as I already told you, it is very ironical because it is not coming from men, it is coming from women, specifically a particular woman who represents patriarchy. And then color white, on one hand it symbolizes purity, but again the readers or the, I would say, the audience, they are expected to think whether the color white specifically represents purity, because you know that there is no direct purity in the drama, no visible purity. It is more or less ironic. And also, white symbolizes control in a way as well. And on the other hand, very ironically, hypocrisy, because in Bernarda's house, you can see that there are all these hypocritical things going on. And then black and dark imagery opposed to white. So there's this act of mourning, and also here you can see how professional mourners are hired, the appearance and reality versus mourning, as in true sadness and fake mourning, and repression and also doom, the ultimate discrimination and also the ultimate destruction. And the cane symbolizes Bernarda's power of authority, patriarch again, and water and heat. On the other hand, there is this passion, and also when it comes to water, there is this thirst for ultimate freedom as well. And in terms of literary devices, symbolism is heavily used. So, as we discussed earlier, several objects and colors such as white, and then foreshadowing. So, throughout the play, you can see that Adela's tragic fate is hinted throughout. And irony, Bernarda's obsession with Familiona, and also the fact that she claims herself as a matriarch. But when she is, I would say, repressed by patriarchy herself. And then imagery, descriptions of heat, darkness, and also silence, specifically the act of imposing silence. And the structure, so the play follows the classical the given format of a tragedy, and there is this fatal flow, that means Bernarda's control, that leads to ultimate destruction. And a narrative style, this is written in three acts. There's this poetic style, Lorca's deep connection to Spanish folklore and traditions, and also dialogues are very dramatic exchanges are there as well. So here you can see that how human desires and also societal expectations are portrayed, and also this unavoidable struggle between individual freedom and rigid tradition, specifically the rigid tradition imposed by the church, because there are several criticisms which are directed to the church as well, church and specifically the clergy. So there you can see how control, honor, and resistance, all these themes are given. Right, okay. So now I will move to the drama, the act, because we were discussing about the first act. So this is where we have stopped. And here you can see the connection between the mother and the daughters, which is not motherly or daughterly at all. Bernarda is imposing strict control. And here also you can see how Magdalena is complaining, and again you can see that Bernarda is criticizing the criticisms which are kind of, directed to her. And also La Poncia is trying to talk some sense to Bernarda, saying that you do not have to complain because everyone was there. But Bernarda somehow finds a point to criticize. So here you can see that on one hand, this is a portrayal of excessive feminism. Maybe you can say that Garcia Lorca was not a feminist at all, because in a way he is criticizing feminism. So this is a direct attack against feminism. So those who promoted feminism, what they were doing is they were portraying women power in such a wholesome manner. But here, what you can see is something unnatural, something excessive. So maybe Lorca was doing it deliberately. You can criticize it in that perspective as well. And yes. here you can see Bernarda's constant doubt about the house. So it, in a way, symbolizes her imbalanced psychological state as well. That's why I already told you that you can read this as a psychological drama. Not only this, but also Macbeth, Faustus, all these can be read as psychological texts. And all this animalistic imagery are there, flock of gods, right? And also this idea of giving the fan, right, a colored circular fan, decorated fan to mother, and her act of rejecting it and asking for a black one, which symbolizes mourning. And then Bernada. So 8 years are imposed. Not a breeze shall enter this house during this time. So consider the doors and windows as sealed. So the idea that we already discussed, self-imposed imprisonment, is present here. And then you can see how Magdalena gives out this idea that she will never be married. So they do not have any hope now because everything is doomed in this household, and curses on all women. So they are, I would say, forced to identify their state as women. So it is translated into a common plight of women. That's how they identify it, even though it is not the truth. So they are forced to believe that way. And then this idea, a needle and thread for women, a whip and mule for women. So clear cut gender demarcations. This is for women, this is for men. And also there's this idea about intersectional discrimination, how they are discriminated because they are been born as women and also poor. So poverty and gender combined into one section, one strata. And then you can see how this mother screams, Bernada, let me out. So, how she is imposing control on her aging mother as well. And she may be 8 years old, but your mother is tough as an oak tree. Again, you can see the strength of women that is portrayed. It's not like that Garcia accepts the strength of women, but he's not ready to acknowledge it. You can see it here. It runs in the family. My grandmother was the same. So, generations of strong women, not just women who were weak, who were domesticated in a traditional sort of way, but on the other hand, they are domesticated by themselves. So that is very ironical. And also, again, the reference to professional mourners, and also this idea of gagging, you can see, physical violence. It's almost like, Bernarda is almost sick, mentally ill, because, the way that she treats her own mother. So from that, you can identify how she is behaving in a certain way which is not normal. And then you can see, how she's taking the rings and earrings from her box, put them on, and tells me she wanted to get married. So she's almost 80 years old. The daughters laugh, but you can say that this is, in a way, a foreshadowing of their own old age, because they are also living in this kind of sort of a life which is yearning for the, I would say, passionate desires, but again, those are controlled. So, repressed desires. So, these repressed desires are translated into acts of violence, acts of transgression in their old age. And here you can see that Bernarda says, go with her and take care that she doesn't go near the well, the mother. So servants aside, out she'll throw herself in. So they also do not think that she would do such an act of suicide. But Bernard is not worried about that, the major act. She's worried if she's there, the neighbors can see her from their windows. That's her doubt. She has this constant paranoia. I think you remember this word. In Macbeth, we also had this word. Paranoia means you think that you are always looked at, you are always being observed. And Bernard also has this fear, kind of a mental illness. And then Martirio. Here you can see that she's asking Martirio to keep your headscarves on. Again, control on their clothing as well. So here you can see Adela. I saw her peeping through a crack in the gate. The men have just left. You can see how they are hating each other, these daughters. They are not bonded with a sisterly love. They hate each other. And then again, all these are references to, the relationships that they are not able to have, the hens had laid. And the male mourners should already have left. And again, the references to male and female dichotomy. Even the house is kind of divided as male space and female space. And yes, so here you can see, is it a proper for a woman of your class to be trying to attract a man on the day of your father's funeral? Again, there's this intersectional discrimination. A woman of your class, if you are from a lower class, that's okay. But here you can see a certain amount of respect and dignity is associated with a woman who is from kind of an upper class or the upper middle class, I would say. And yes, so the way that she's advancing with her stick, which again shows patriarchal control, and the way that she addresses or blames the daughter's spineless, sickly creature. And then you can see how La Poncia controls Bernarda. So she has, in a way, this controlling authority over Bernarda, even though she is the servant of Bernarda. Here you can see she's, in a way, a parallel to Bernarda's character. And Bernarda is always trying to silence and, control even this act of asking everyone to leave, literally chasing them away as animals. So her domineering character. And La Poncia is obviously, she's kind of, giving all these details out, how, how she's listening to the men's conversations and, about this servant, right? So this act of transgression, and how even though the people who are responsible for this act are males, but the blaming is falling on whom? The lady. So disgraceful means only the lady is disgraceful. The servant is disgraceful. They are not, I would say, directing the disgrace towards men who have done the act. And yeah, she's the only loose woman in the village because she's not from here. Again, you can see making boundaries because the other women who are in the village, right? So they are chaste, but not this other woman. So we identify this idea as othering, right? You can see it in most of the post-colonial texts, how eastern set of the world, the orient is othered. Likewise, this person is othered. She's not from here. She's from far off. And also those who went with us, sons of foreigners too, not from here. Men from here aren't up to such things. So we call it whitewashing, right? Whitewashing means you are painting someone's ugly character with whitewashed, as in, whitewashed paint with white paint. So then you cannot see the dark, ugly things, just like that. And then you can see Bernard is not ready to accept it in a way. So she's anyway critical about her own village as well. And also here you can see that she is very, I would say, afraid that this daughter has heard all these things which were uttered by these people, right? So here you can see it is again very ironical. She's not letting them out, and also this act of listening was identified as an act of transgression. And she takes after her aunts, so not me, that's what her idea. So they are not taking after me, they are not like me, that's her idea. And also, La Poncia, your daughters are of an age to receive compliments. She's trying to talk some sense to Bernarda, but no. And then Angustia must be over 30 by now. Bernarda 39 to be exact. So here you can say, obviously, when it comes to this society, this time period, this is not a marriageable age, right? When we consider 39, not a marriageable age at all. But then she never had a suitor. None of them has. They don't need them. They are fine as they are. And who decides that? It is decided by Bernarda, not by the daughters. So the daughters do not have any free will. They are totally, entirely controlled by this matriarch authority. And also, here you can see, would you have me give them up to any beggar who asks? So again, you can see that these men are not rich enough. That is the idea. That is their, I would say, questioning. You'd have moved to some other village. And indeed, to sell them off. And again, you can see, again, there's this idea. She doesn't want to sell these daughters. That means, marriage is identified as a marriage market even nowadays, where, both men and women are sold at high prices, high demand. But here, Bernarda is not ready to do that. But again, on the other hand, she's not being considerate about the daughter's emotions as well. right? Yeah. So you serve me and pay you, nothing more. Are we not friends? So here you can see La Poncia wants to be equal to Bernarda, but Bernarda is not letting her in onto her space. You serve me and I pay you, nothing more. So there's no friendship, there's no relationship. So here you can see no matter all the characters are females, but there's no bond between them, right? So everyone, I would say, hates each other. And then again another person is coming so to discuss the will, right? So here you can see that of all these legal and monetary aspects men are invited, but again what happens is they are not taken into the, I would say, the insides of the house. Start whitewashing the courtyard. You go and pull the dead one's clothes in the big chest, right? So dead one, so who is this dead one? Her own partner. That's how she identifies him now. We could give some of the things, nothing, not a button, not even the handkerchief we covered his face with. So she's not ready to donate, right? So again, you can see usually these people who are in the aristocracy, who belong to the aristocracy, are expected to be, I would say, indulged in charity, right? No matter whether it is genuine or not. Usually, this charity, right? The idea of charity always revolves around them. But here it is not like that. She's very direct in such instances as well, saying no to charity. And also, here you can see, I do things without any faith in them, like a piece of clockwork. And again, you can see, right? So, Martirio is also like that. So, they do not have any emotions, they are dried up at this moment. Right. And then you can see Adelaida wasn't there at the funeral. So they are discussing now. I know she wouldn't be. Her fiance won't let her walk in the street. She used to be happy. Now she doesn't even powder her face. Again, there's a criticism of this institution of marriage as well. So as much Garcia, I would say, criticizes the act of not letting the daughters be married, which is imposed by Bernard. On the other hand, there's a criticism of this act of marriage as well, because in the marriages which are discussed here, there's no faith, there's no love, and also women are being controlled. Either the men control women, no, women control men, right? So in Bernarda's marriage, what happens? Women control men. And in this one, Adelaida's marriage, men control women. So whatever it is happening, so it is not kind of, you cannot see a happy marriage in this drama. And also here you can see these are inherently modernist dramas. In this modernist period, you can see, after world wars and all these things, dark, I would say, issues which are going inside the society, depression and all these things, all these darknesses are translated into their texts as well. So you can see that, right? So this moral ambiguity, all these things are pictured here. It's almost like a cross section of the society. And here, Amelia, I no longer know if it's better to have a fiance or not. Right? So she's not sure now. They are in this doubt. They are always stuck perpetually. Perpetually means eternally. Stuck in this liminal space, whether to marry or not to marry. It's like this, Hamlet's famous line, to be or not to be. Likewise, to marry or not to marry, they're not sure. Because they do not know whether marriage would lead them to a happy state or not, because the idea of marriage in this society is not something beautiful, not something romanticized as we saw in the previous eras of literature. So modernist era kind of, questions all the institutions. And here you can see, and again, we can be critical about both as well. So because here you can see that on one hand, you can say literature is not just portraying or depicting what the society really is. You can argue that literature should present something, I would say, a better option, a better form of marriage, a better form of religion to the readers or the audience. But here you can see that this is a cross section of the reality, right? Reality of the contemporary period, I would say. Yeah, and here you can see how they are afraid of mother, excessive matriarch control. She is the only one who knows the truth about Adelaida's father, how he got his land. Wherever she comes here, mother sticks the knife in. Father killed. You can see how first wife's husband. So all these acts of transgressions, acts of violence were there. And there you can see how all these things have happened. And also, Amelia is, asking why is the wretch not in jail, because men cover up things as a nature among themselves. No one's willing to speak out. So there's a criticism of men too, not only women, right? A harsh criticism of both men and women. And also, Adelaida is not to blame for all that, but that's how it happens. But tales are repeated, and to me, it all seems one dreadful repetition. Her fate is same as her mother's and her grandfather's, both wives of the men who engendered her. Again, you can see the idea of women being blamed. Women are to carry the weight of their men's actions as well, right? It's preferable never to see a man. Since childhood, they make me afraid. I'd see them in yard, yoking the oxen and lifting the sacks of wheat, shouting and stamping. So here you can say I was already afraid of growing old and suddenly finding myself in their arms. So here you can see the idea of witnessing men to be rough and violent because they have not seen men. That is the reality. So they have witnessed some men who are outsiders. They did not get any chance to literally to be intimate with a person, right? So likewise, but here you can see they are kind of forming their judgments about men based on their prejudices, their judgments, right? Yeah. And also, Enric Hemens was after even he liked to. People invent things. Once I stood by the window in my nightgown till dawn because his farmman's daughter told me he was going to stop, but he never came. And again, you can see how he married another one with more money than this person, Martirio. Again, how marriage is based on wealth. Some marriages, I would say, and ugly as the devil, beauty matter to them, right? So land, oxen, submersive beach to fetch them their food. So this sums up the contemporary idea of marriage. Here I means years in kind of an archaic sense. And here you can see how they are hating each other and always trying to find fault. What are you doing? Even, existing is questioned. And yeah, I was looking at the pictures grandmother embroidered, the little poodle, Negro fighting a line that we loved so much when we were children. And again, you can see again all these have post-colonial references, little poodle and the Negro fighting a lion, right? So Negro symbolizing all this post-colonial space of Africa, right? And the dichotomy between Orient and the Occident, and also the dichotomy between Africa and the West. Wedding lasted 10 days. There were no malicious gossip. They are more refined. Brides wear white veils as they do in the towns, drink bottled wine we waste away because of their chatter. Again, you can see how people have evolved, not as a civilized race, but to me, more transgressive. And also here you can see the idea of shoelaces undone, again symbolic of their freedom, right? How they desire freedom, but they are unable to kind of identify freedom as something wholesome and actualize it. That's why you will step on it and fall. If you kind of yearn freedom, you will be destroyed at the end. She put on the green dress that the first wore on her birthday and went to the yard and shouted, hence, hence, look at me. I had to laugh. All these, you can see she is yearning for freedom, Adela, and she is the one who gets destroyed. She's the youngest of all and full of illusions. I'd give anything to see her happy. Again, you can see Magdalena is not very bitter here. She wants to see her happy. And then what time it is? It must be 12, that late, about to strike. Here you can see, you know more about it than I. You always have your heads together like little sheep, but you never tell anyone anything, the business about Pepe and Romano. So they want to know as well. It's talked about all over the place. He is to marry Angustia. He was around the house last night. I think he'll soon and someone to ask for her. So how they picture, right? This person, the only man that who kind of, they can witness closer. Neither of you are pleased. If he wanted Angustia for herself or Angustia the woman, I'd be pleased, but he's after the money. So this is the reality, the truth. She's our sister, but we are family and know she's aging and unwell. She's 40. She has always had the least two of her. She looked like a broomstick with clothes on at 20. What she is now at 40. So she's not pleasant to look at in kind of, in societal standards. And here you can see good fortune comes to those who least expect it. So again, you can see all these ideas that they are trying to generalize this marriage which is going to happen, which is kind of, impending, I would say, impending state of marriage. Angustia has her father's money. She's the only wealthy one in the house. So they see the reality, right? Our father is dead and they are sharing out his estate. They are after her. So you can see how all these things are happening. And Pepe Ramon is 25 years, half that lady's age. Handsomest man in the whole neighborhood, despite being the handsomest man, right? The natural thing would be for him to court to Amelia or Adela, who is only 20, not go after the least attractive one. He's doing it for what? Literally, he's doing it for wealth. And also, I've never been able to stand your hypocrisy. So here you can see hypocritical things are happening where Magdalena is kind of, trying to talk some sense to them, trying to picture the reality. What would you have me with it? If mother says so, she'll drag you about by the hair again, matriarchal control, and that is happening with physical violence as well. It suits me. It's the best Magdalena I ever made. A dress. And what did the chicken say to it? They passed on some of their fleas and my legs got beaten. Again, all these references to, unhinged desires. But they are expected to control. And then you can see, haven't you heard the talk? Money makes everything possible. So there's this recurrent idea of money controlling everything as well. She followed the mourners and looked through the day, and that man is capable of, right? He's capable of anything. What are you thinking of, Adela? I'm thinking of this mourning period has come to the worst possible time in my life because she's unable to step outside for 8 years. You will get used to it, but she's very young, you can see. I won't get used to it. I don't want to be shut in. I don't want my skin to become like yours. So she's been very direct here as well. I don't want to lose my bloom in these rooms. That has happened to the sisters. She has witnessed it. I'll put on my green dress and I'll go for a walk in the street. I want to go out. So she's very kind of, in the need of liberation, in the need of escapism. Poor child, she misses her father, so that's how they picture it. It will be the same for all of us. The servant almost overheard you. Pepe Romanus at the top of the street. Let's go and look. Aren't you going with him? I'm not interested. When he turns the corner, you can see him best from the window. Again, you can see the servant is also, in a way, supporting them because she knows how they are restricted inside the household. Adela remains there in two minds. After a moment, she too rushes out to her room. Bernard and La Poncia enter. Cursed will, but a lot of money for Angustia, yes. And now they have met this person, this legal authority, the person who represents the legal authority, and they're discussing the will. So the money is for Angustia here. And for the others, quite a lot less. So they are kind of, doomed more into a kind of a much sadder position, much sadder predicament. You said it 3 times already, and I chose not to answer. Quite a lot less, much less. Don't remind me again. How dare you powder your face, right? So Auguste has powdered her face. How dare you even wash it on the day of your father's funeral? So it's almost like animalistic. She's expecting them to be kind of almost unhygienic, right? Without washing their faces and all. He wasn't my father. Mine died years ago. Have you forgotten about him? You owe more to this man, your sister's father, than your own. Thanks to this one, you inherited the fortune. Here you can see again, in a way, in how injustice, I would say, happen in a way as well, because injustice happens here because this girl, Angustia, who already has money, right, a lot of wealth, receives more. If only out of decency, out of respect, mother, let me go out. After you have cleaned that powder from your face, cunning little hypocrite, just like your aunts. Bernard, don't meddle so much. So here you can say La Poncha is trying to intermediate because she in a way sympathizes with the daughters much more than Bernada. Even if my mother's crazy, I have my 5 cents intact and I know exactly what I'm doing. So excessive, I would say. This idea that she is always correct, that's also the excessive ego. And here you are arguing about the inheritance. You, the richest of us anyway, you can stick the lot of it. So here you can say that there's this injustice happening anyway. Watch your foul tongue. And she's bitter also that she could have, I would say, accepted that with, I would say, humility, and also maybe she can, in a way, because you know that even though these are legal stuff, but again Angustia could be more sympathetic about her sisters, but that is not happening. Don't think it will give you any power over me. Till I leave this house, the first I'll manage your business and mine. So here you can say that Bernard is now afraid that Angustia will take after as a foreshadowing what Bernard has done for her mother. She is afraid that it would be translated onto her own character, right? So the same treatment she's kind of in a way expecting that from her daughter. and she's afraid of that she would be, I would say, doomed to the fate which is experienced by her own mother. Bernarda, where's my shawl? You don't need anything of mine, not my rings, not my black mar dress, because none of you will ever be married. Not one. Bernarda, give me my pearl necklace. So this is the grandmother. She's boasting of her marriage because you know that she already kind of, had got married, and also now she's not in her right senses. Now she wants to be married again. All these suppressed desires are coming out, and it is a foreshadowing for Bernarda and also the daughters. What did you let in her here? She escaped me. Servant is trembling, kind of afraid of Bernarda. I escaped her because I want to get married. I wish to marry a handsome young man from the seashore. This 80 years old woman. You can see, unhinged desires. Say the men run away from women. Be quiet, mother. I won't be quiet. I don't want to see these single women. That means the daughters foaming at the mouth of marriage, their hearts turn into dust. I want to go back to my village. So the desire of escaping from the physical space as well. I want a man to marry and be happy with. Lock her up, the physical locking up. Let me go out, Bernard. Help all of you. I want to go, Bernard. I want to be married by the seashore. And I want you to think about the symbol of seashore here as well. Sea. So sea symbolizes ultimate freedom, right? Unhinged desires, uncontrolled desires. And they are at this verge of sea of emotions, which they are unable to enter. So that is the end of Act 1, and that is the only prescribed part for for you to study in the syllabus. So you may go through this Act 1 and also go through the presentation and explore the themes, symbols, and also the characters as well.